Well, end of day 2 at the Paris Olympics, and we're going to talk about the big story in a second. I'm with two-time Olympian and world champion swimmer James Magnussen. Maggie, let's start on a positive note because big story developing. But Jess Fox did it again, four-time world champion, four-time Olympian, and got it again today, second gold medal.
Got it again, this time in the K1. Got the C1 back in Tokyo. 4th Olympics, first athlete in Australian history to get 4 medals in the same event at 4 consecutive Olympic Games.
At the end of the semis, ranked 8th missile, and mate, found a way to win. One thing about her, like you speak to people, is mental toughness. And as you know, you can have speed, you can have power, but the most crucial thing in sport is mental toughness.
Watching that this afternoon, it looked like a particularly hard course as well. Brutal. Like one little mistake and it was blowing out their time by 5 seconds. And we saw that mistake from her in the semi-final. So the mental dexterity to jump back up in the final, then to be in pole position, and of all the ways to win it, she worked for it.
Well, Missile, let's go to our man, Crash Craddock and Matt Cunningham.
Crash, what do you make of that?
One of the great pressure performances we've seen in Australia Olympics this century, I thought. I mean, you think of it, you know, the French heritage, the fact that this race had been very cruel to her, the pressure, she didn't have a great semi-final, and you're a pinball in that water. You know, you're in a tumble dryer. You know, it's not like a cricketer who can put bat close to pad. You're at the whims of the elements. Fabulous.
I spoke to you briefly after the semi. You seemed confident, even though she'd finished, I think she was 8th fastest qualifier, you still were confident that she was going to win this one. I mean, why was that?
In the hope that it was the shocker she had to have. Not a shocker, but just a little bit off. So great athletes like that, when they have that performance like Nadal or a Federer, they then go back and take stock and they're better for it. And that was the hope. But it was pressure. I mean, and her time was not damn-bustingly good. So she was vulnerable. There would be days when other performers might have just slipped past her, and that's why she had so much anguish when she was sitting in the seat, because she knew that it wasn't flawless in terms of a great run, but the time was not sensational, so it was gettable. But that will be the greatest day of her life, I'd say, until she wins a second one.
Well, she's won the C1 before in Tokyo, but I mean, do you think, was this the one that she really wanted?
I think so, because it was just, you know, this particular one had been tough to her, you know, a couple of sort of minor medals, and it's just the first of her 3 medals. And Richard Fox, her father, who's such a beautiful stabilising force in her life, has this thing where if you get high, they sort of bring you quietly back. If you're low, they tug you up. They said, don't stay with the moment for long. So she'll go home tonight and she'll, you know, celebrate quietly, then recalibrate, do her meditation and her hydration, a great professional, and come back, you know, for her second and third. But I think this opens the way for her to have a damn busting Olympics, because she's up, she's on fire. If she had been beaten in that, the pressure would have been enormous. But now she's playing with the casino's chips, if you know what I mean.
Well, you talk about that pressure. My heart was racing. How do you think she was feeling as she had to watch the field go through?
Well, she's very cool and very relaxed, and that's why it was so fascinating to watch her going, sucking in the big ones. And as I said, she just knew that she was on solid ground, but she wasn't sitting on Mount Everest knowing that no one's going to come near her. I mean, that was fabulous, you know. And I just thought, you know, watching it live, Matt, you really get an appreciation for what a difficult, fickle, challenging, unpredictable sport it is. You know, it's not a perfect sport like tennis where you can aim for that corner and hit it. Sometimes Mother Nature just gets you and slam dunks you. It didn't get her today, and I just think, you know, she's one of the highest profile athletes now in Australia. And who would have thought that 20 years ago? If you'd have said a whitewater athlete will have that status. I mean, it's quite incredible.
Well, she's certainly much loved. I think everyone's on Team Fox here tonight. It was great to see as well the French getting behind her with that French background as well. We've spoken to a few of the spectators coming out, and you really heard the roar of the crowd for the French competitor, but also for Jess in that last run.
You did. And her story's been very well publicised over here. You know, spent her first 3 years in Marseille and loved roaming in the parklands there on the beach. And they had a house between the city and the beach. And the kids, their love of France is so intrinsic, they've come back most years. I mean, that's about 20 years. And they come back nearly every year to be with their grandma. She cooks them cookies and all the little things she loves about France. So it's a unique story, the likes of which we've never seen before, Matt, and I'm not sure we'll ever see it again.
It was a great moment indeed. Thanks so much, Crash, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Wade, to be here.
Right, Missile, one of the biggest developing stories. Now, mate, you spoke about it last night. You wrote about it. We're seeing athletes starting to leave the village.
Evacuate the dance floor. Yeah, so the American tennis team has all left the village. They're fed up with the facilities. We may see this continue to develop. We saw again tonight, got great results in the pool, but as far as times goes, they're well off those world marks. And again, I don't think it's a slow pool. Sleeping on cardboard beds. I showed you before the footage of what the mattresses are.
Honestly.
Best described, I guess, as styrofoam.
It's honestly, Missile, and honestly, sometimes I think to myself that, like modern day athletes, sometimes I think they can be pampered.
Yeah.
But this, I look at this, and it is ridiculous. You know, the Olympics and people have trained so hard for 4 years. They turn up here, and they're sleeping on cardboard beds.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
I spoke last night, I guess, I joked last night about the amount of vegan options in the village that they're running out of meat. Well, Australian heavyweight boxer has come out. He wanted lamb chops. Maximum 2 chops per person. Guy's 6'6", be 110 at the best. 2 chops.
Well, Missile, he's come here as a heavyweight. He'll go home as a middleweight. Like, honestly, it's
different, isn't it? It's
and
different.
Tilly Kearns, she posted and showed the beds and how ridiculous it was.
My line today, Matty, that will be in the paper is you're trying to get the perfect result in the most imperfect environment. And it really is, at the end of the day, who can overcome these setbacks, who can put these distractions aside, and when they get on the blocks, instead of thinking about excuses or reasoning as to why they're not going to break a record or why they're not going to win gold, can focus back in on the job at hand. That's why, again, when we're seeing girls like Jess Fox, Ariarne, our women's 4x1, it's all the more impressive given the circumstances that are surrounding it.
But you know, Missile, like the difference sometimes can be 1/100th of a second. Like you've dealt with that.
Yeah.
You know how big a difference just little things make.
And if you think trying to sleep on styrofoam in a cardboard bed, let's say you're getting 70% of the sleep you normally would because you're a bit more restless, you're a bit less comfortable. That can be all the difference. And we will see that throughout this meet. There will be many athletes across the 2 weeks of competition who miss out on a medal or miss out on a record or miss out on a final because they're unsettled by this new environment that they haven't seen before. We haven't seen this at Olympic Games before. We haven't had this amount of complaints about a village in Olympic history.
Well, Missile, one of my favourite stories when talking to young guys about doing extras and little things make such a big difference is Debbie Flintoff-King, 400-metre hurdler. She won gold at the Seoul Olympics, right? She was trained by Phil King, her husband. The great Laurie Lawrence went around to her house Christmas morning. All the kids are there. Phil's there. They're waiting out the presents. Where's Debbie? She's at the track. He goes, seriously? Like, really? So he goes to the track and says, Debbie, you know, it's Christmas Day. Get home to your kids. And she's, Laurie, this is the one day that all the opposition will not be training. This will buy me 1/100th of a second. She won by putting her head out 1/100th of a second.
I love it.
It's little things make a real big difference.
Huge difference.
Now, today, Missile, you could hear French people screaming in the streets. Their national hero won gold.
Leon Marchand in the 400 IM. So he is, in some ways, the face of this Games. It's the first time, I was talking to all the journos back at HQ today, it's the first time they've had a national hero at their prime at an Olympic Games, at a home Games, they think, since Ian Thorpe in Sydney. So he is one of the biggest swimmers in the world and has popped up right in time for a home Games. So much so that Michael Phelps' coach, Bob Bowman, has left the American team and come to the French team to coach him. That's how big of a name he is in world swimming right now. He didn't break the world record because, as we've said, there's other things going on. But he won a gold medal, and all throughout the streets, the French were singing and dancing. It's going to be one of the stories of the game. He'll back up again in the 200 IM, and I think he'll win another gold. But great to see. I didn't know the French were this passionate. I've been here heaps, I've swum here heaps, and I've never seen anything like it.
And so I was blown away by the rugby sevens yesterday. I've never seen patriotism like it, even by the Americans. And today, early this morning, you could hear roaring from the beach volleyball when the French were there. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's what it's about. 200 semi tonight. Ariarne beat Mollie.
Yes.
Give me your thoughts.
Interesting race. So those two will go in as the 1 and 2 ranked swimmers into this final. They'll go in as ranked the 1 and 2 fastest women in history in this event. And they'll go into this final as teammates, countrymen, but squad mates with the same coach who'll be in the same lane for the warm-up. Dean needs to turn to Mollie and say, here's your game plan tonight to beat Ariarne. And then he needs to turn to Ariarne and say, Ariarne, here's your game plan to beat Mollie. I'm not sure how it works. It's never happened in my career, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Who's
his favourite? I don't know. Surely he can't have a favourite, but yeah.
Well, they say you can't have a favourite son. Well, I do.
Shout out to you, Jack Johns. But a fascinating match race again tonight. Ariarne takes it out hard. Mollie finishes really fast, which, again, that must be the game plan, which is very interesting because Ariarne's coming from the 400 down to the 200, so she naturally doesn't have as much speed as Mollie. So you'd expect her to finish fast. It's the exact opposite. Mollie's coming from the 100 up. She's going out slow, letting Ariarne lead it, and then coming back at her the last 50. So, again, it comes back to game plans, what the coach is saying to the swimmers before they go out and race.
It's really interesting. We saw Ariarne in the 400 qualify preserving energy. Coming second, people going, oh, what's going on here? But really smart tactic, preserve it for the final. This one, she wins. Is she trying to leave a battle scar on Mollie?
I think so. She definitely pushed a little bit harder to get to the finish tonight, to be in lane 4 for that final of the 200 freestyle. We saw in the 400, she's used to being in lane 4. She accidentally put all of her kit in Katie Ledecky's lane 4 lane, so she likes lane 4. But I was a little bit surprised. I thought, again, she might let Mollie go and go in second to the final, but that's strike number 1 for Ariarne. But the ultimate race tomorrow night.
Give me the tail of the tape, though.
Tail of the tape. Look, Mollie is the more skillful swimmer, better at starts, turns, and underwater, and probably has a little bit more speed in the free swim. Ariarne, as we've seen, unflappable mentally. We know that she's going to swim fast. She's going to be down around that 154 mark. And basically, Mollie O'Callaghan needs to swim the race of her life to beat Ariarne, because we know Ariarne's going to be here, and Mollie needs to essentially probably be at that world record pace to win it.
Who wins?
That's a great question.
Firstly, who do you want to win?
For the sake of history, I'm backing in Arnie. Arnie could become the first woman in history, the first Australian in history to go the double-double. Ian Thorpe couldn't do it. Can Ariarne do it? Can she become our greatest swimmer in history? I think for the storyline, I like Ariarne. Before this meet started, I said Mollie O'Callaghan because, like I said, she has the tools. She has the tools to beat Ariarne. But we've seen now again and again, Ariarne is just, she's box office. She doesn't feel the pressure. She's just stone-faced. She'll stare you down, then she'll dive in and swim at her best every time. So, look, I'm backing Arnie in to win this one. But the great thing for us as Aussies, it's just who gets gold and who gets silver.
Okay, question on that. Because when we see what you did to Ledecky by staring her down, what do you think Australians will think if she did similar to Mollie?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, if I was Ariarne, I'd stare her down. I'd get in her head because I want to win at all costs. But in saying that, I've never raced one of my best friends in an Olympic final in front of the world's media, right? But if I was Ariarne, I'd be trying to get in Mollie's head. But I'm not sure what their relationship is. They must be close friends. They spend 6 hours a day together every day of the week, every day of the year. So they must be close friends. So that's what just makes it all the more intriguing. I spoke to all the other journos today. This is unprecedented. We've never seen before the fastest and second fastest swimmer in history in that event training in the same squad. It's never been done.
Interesting how certain athletes will react to that sort of stuff. Like, to use a different sport, they used to say about cricket. The War brothers always said when Viv Richards walked to the crease, don't sledge him. Don't stare him down.
Yep.
It'll turn him. Okay, how does Mollie react if Ariarne does that?
Well, I'd say Ariarne's the one where you'd say, don't poke the bear. Don't stir Ariarne. Don't give Ariarne motivation, because she's that person that will rise to the challenge. This will be Mollie's first individual Olympic final, which is very important in the scheme of things, because she hasn't swum on that level before. She's swum in Olympic Games, she's swum heats, she's swum relays, but there's something different about an individual Olympic final. When you stand out there and all the pressure's on you, the focus is on you, it's a different kind of intensity. Ariarne's done it last night. She knows exactly what's coming. Mollie's sitting there tonight thinking, what's that going to feel like? How much pressure am I under? How will this change my life? Ariarne has no questions in her head. She goes, I've done it before, I'm going to do it again tomorrow night.
Extraordinary. So Matildas versus Zambia. Right. They were so disappointing against Germany. And Missile 5-2. Well, they started first. An extraordinary goal from Zambia. And they were expected to just roll through Zambia. But Zambia had two. They got two outstanding strikers. Scored a couple of wonder goals early. 5-2 down, Missile. It's fair to say that the defenders had a night off. Both play because they win 6-5. Right. At 5-2. Tony Gustafsson, mate, he's lined up at Centrelink. Mate, honestly.
He would have been.
You're
right.
It was absolutely extraordinary. 6-5 to the Matildas.
So I guess the positives for Matildas, right? Attack, no dramas. It's on. Defence, they've got a couple of days now to turn it around before they take on the US of A.
Yeah. Steph Catley, best player on the field. 2 assists, 2 goals. Got to beat the US now. That's a big one.
Could they bring in new personnel? Is there anyone missing, or is this is it, right?
I mean, the big person missing, of course, is Sam, but she's not available. But I think he'll just go with what he's got. I think he put his strongest side out. They had to beat Zambia. Tricky game. They got it done. Today, Missile, I'll tell you something, because, I mean, we're talking about the big sports there. We're talking, athletics is going to come up. You think about swimming. I went and saw the beach volleyball, which is developed into a big sport. Went to the street skateboarding. Both of them, I loved it. It was really funny. It was like, it's small. It's like a cauldron in there. Today it was about 32 degrees. It was like an oven. The beach volleyball was outstanding. We saw Brazil up against Egypt. Brazil won that one. And the atmosphere, all the Brazilians in the stadium, it was like the noise was it was fantastic. Someone I want to give a shout out to, right? And the street skateboarding, it's amazing. You turn up, there were 3 young ladies, 14 years of age, right? One of which was, it was young Chloe Covell. She went in there, and I tell you what, I was blown apart. When you think about street skateboarding, people go, oh yeah. The toughness of those young ladies is extraordinary. The skill level, I mean, the creativity, what they have to do. But, mate, some of the falls today and what they put on the line, like, honestly, it's the sort of punishment that boxers get. And they pick themselves up and just keep going.
Tell me, with a crowd at a skateboarding event, is it an educated crowd? Do they understand the scoring and what's going on? Are they more there for the environment and the show of it?
What I'm used to, like, in the sport that I played, you used to, bias and booing and cheering.
Yeah.
There was enormous goodwill.
It's such high risk event, isn't it?
And Missile, huge Brazilian presence again. There was a young Brazilian girl, and I'm looking at these, like, 14 years of age, and they were the Brazilian crowd were chanting her name, and she just delivered. You think about that pressure and that mental toughness. But Chloe Covell, I tip my hat to her. She didn't get a medal. Mate, she took some massive falls, some huge falls today. Pick herself up, go again and again and again.
You think Chloe Covell, so we've seen some records broken by some athletes now competing at their 5th games. She's 14. She kicked 10 of the things.
Mate,
these are the athletes that could really break records in the future.
Yep. Let's look forward a little bit. Now, tomorrow, just something a little bit different. Harry Garside, right? Harry, this is a really interesting one, right, Missile. Harry Garside, Fox Sports had a big fight night planned. Right? It was about to go ahead. Harry Garside, the last second, pulls the pin on professionalism, says, I'm going back to amateur. I'll win an Olympic gold medal. So his career... Really, this is a huge games for Harry.
Yeah, it's on the line. It will basically decide whether the last couple of years have been a waste of time or not, right? And then at the end of it, what's that Olympic gold medal worth? Should he have gone pro? Does he have a future in pro fighting if he doesn't win this gold medal at the Olympic Games? Who's going to coach him moving forward? Obviously, he's burnt some bridges there as well in the boxing world. Yeah. It's a story that everybody is really fascinated by. So, be interesting to see. And it's just luck of the draw boxing, right? Like who from which countries has decided to stay amateur?
Okay, I'll give you something. You said luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Olympic judges are notoriously fickle when it comes to boxing. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Okay.
Jeff Fennick,
Yeah.
84.
Yeah.
Fennick, clear winner in the semi-final, doesn't get the decision. Like, spoken about the guy who beat him, McCory, he beat him actually as later on as a professional. The big one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, Floyd Mayweather, 50-0.
Yeah.
He went to the Olympics in 96, right? And he fought a Bulgarian. Beat him comprehensively. When they did the decision, they gave it to the Bulgarian. The referee was so convinced it was a mistake, he put Floyd's hand up. So, Harry, good luck.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so big day tomorrow. Missile, look forward to it. What are we going to do? What's on the cards tonight? What are we going to get it to?
Well, we've got this beautiful view behind us, Matty.
Yeah.
I reckon we might need to find ourselves a pub with the view, treat ourselves.
Let's do it. We'll give Crash a call.
Let's do it.